right. Howdy.
Hello.
We are in the middle of having a conversation about time commitments and within the behavior analytic field, how time is very valuable to all of us, regardless of what space we're in, but in particular to the students that we serve and how we put just a lot of things on them,
hmm
unknowingly sometimes.
Exactly. And I think it's very important because this is something that affects everybody. I think to a degree that we don't talk about enough because we just assume it's the way that it is. This is the way that things are. And because it's the way that things are, people often associate that with it being the way that things are supposed to be, which I think we both heavily push back on. Like, no, things don't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be this bad. It is this bad, but we can make changes in our world to improve our material conditions. And this, I think, is something that we need to discuss and unpack and break down and deconstruct because I think it could lead to better lived outcomes.
Absolutely. The thing that also really gets me, I had a student who was working on a manuscript on this exact topic, basically talking about burnout, and I love it. It's wonderful because when you actually dig into the behavior analytic research, it's one of those things that like behavior analysts are really good at saying, "Hey, we should do this," and then nobody actually does it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody does the thing, but we love to say, "Hey, you know what would be a great idea? This."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and burnout is one of those things. And I can't help but blame that on the capitalism structure that everything is based on.
Same.
So I think we should really deconstruct that a little bit.
I agree. I think that a lot of times, and I think this will get into a conversation we'll have later. A lot of times, behavior analysts look at when we're measuring, the unit of analysis is at the individual. When individuals live in environments, and environments have contingencies that sometimes we'll shape a little bit of, but when we really want for the best, largest, most generalizing change, we need to change these contingencies and environment and variables in the environments and as a larger subset, as a larger unit of analysis. We can't just look at the individual. We need to widen our scope to be able to change those, and then we could change the individual's behavior more easily, and we could change more individuals' behaviors. So I think this is perfect. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Um, there's a really great article that's basically a lit review that I wanted to kind of bring up. It's, I don't know if I'm saying this right, so sorry if I'm butchering it, but Krenak et al. Um, basically talking about different articles that discuss burnout, any sort of strategies in ABA that even address it. So there was apparently only, there were 10 articles collected. One, yeah, the only intervention study that was reviewed um, were all BCBAs basically given a values and committed action training, so BST. So basically, we blame the individual and we say, hey, you need to be doing more, not the organizations and the environment which the individuals are immersed into. And so I find this so interesting. So definitely take a look at this article because it's not that old either. I'm trying to remember the exact year on this, but 2024.
Yeah. There you go.
So, like, this is not from the 90s, folks. It's like current, we talk about this, but yet we continue to blame the learner in the environment that is arguably not using the strategies of like organizational behavior management or reinforcement principles like we like to talk about and just not use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually had a student that I was covering for a term, and she wanted to investigate burnout. And I gave her some feedback. Hey, I think that if you went into inner behavior and started measuring inner behavior, thoughts, feelings, and urges, as it relates to burnout, you could have some really interesting, really valuable research.
Yeah.
Now, I gave her that option, and then she also had another option. She chose the other option because she was afraid of precision teaching in the standard acceleration chart, which is totally valid. I get that, you have that learning history, but it's just really unfortunate because I think that she could have gone far and done really well with it. I think when it comes to sometimes what we want our students to do and what they want to do, sometimes there's
Yeah.
a gap, and I always want to be like, hey, you got to be working with this. I'm just really giving you feedback, helping you shape it up. So it's whatever you want. I'm going to tell you some opportunities, some things that you can do, but yeah, I mean, there's so many ways we can really investigate burnout in our field, and it's so important. I just don't think there's a lot of really good research on it as it relates to the way you could do behavior science on it, which I really wish we could get into.
Well, that's something that we could start. But of course, we'll just add it to the pile of things we're already trying to get done and accomplish. Once again, going back to the concept of, do we have time? Is this something
Mm-hmm.
that we can do? And like with students, I'm finding that gaining participants for their research is actually proving to be challenging if they're not doing a study like an advanced research project where they are working with a client and it's involving the client. If you have to recruit actively participation, that's where we're finding an issue because you're wanting these people who are in ABA, you're wanting participants who are active practitioners. They don't have the time, and we're seeing that, and that's the concern. It's like we want students to be involved with recruitment, we want students to be involved in other people's research, but yet we're also saying, well, you got to hustle an adjunct while you obtain your doctorate and while you work on your thesis, and you've got to present at a conference, and you've got to complete all your coursework and pass the board exam and do this and do that, and also here's all these clients because we want to maximize your billing, and it's so much. I don't think that people realize how much we put on students before they're even certified sometimes.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot, especially in an accelerated program.
Mm-hmm.
When they say accelerated, it's like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. These programs are incredibly accelerated. Like, I just sent you a checklist that I created because to help students understand what their deliverables need to be each term for our advanced applied project. And looking at it, even I was like, oh my goodness, this is a lot to get through. I mean, I knew already it was, but the way that it was organized, I think, was a little better bit of a visual so that they could really understand what's expected of them. Because you go into your uh, learning center or whatever learning website you have, we use Canvas, and you see the modules and the assignments. Oh, okay, okay, okay. But like when you really kind of group it up and you put it into those, it really kind of can show the weight of it. And one of the things that I think that we've are doing well is we're trying to put this time problem and show it as research. You showed burnout is a problem and the dearth of research in burnout. I just found this article on new term alert, new term alert, new term alert. I love this term, time poverty, right? And as soon as people hear it, it's like, oh my God, I feel like I understand. This one was time poverty
Oh,
conceptualization.
prescription
Y-
needed.
exactly, you get it. Conceptualization, gender differences, and policy solutions by Jana van der Molen. And I'm just going to read the abstract real quick because I think it says it all. Individuals with heavy paid and unpaid work burdens may experience time deprivations that restrict their well being and put them at risk of becoming or remaining income poor. Because unpaid work outside of the market is not captured in most large survey based datasets, time poverty is rarely recognized in policy and practice. Yet, income poverty and time poverty are mutually reinforcing and they can sap energy and impede effective decision making, thus perpetuating the state of poverty. This paper offers a five-step approach to conceptualizing and measuring time poverty, and it compares time poverty rates by gender across a range of developing countries. Countries. Results show that women have higher time poverty rates than men in most cases, with the main exception being countries with low female labor force participation, policies that strengthen physical and social infrastructure, thereby decreasing the time needed for unpaid housework, have demonstrable effects on reducing time poverty.
I love all of this. I really do. And it's not that, you know, sometimes you'll read research and you'll be like, okay, I don't see those effects in real time as evidently. But this, it's like, oh, I see it, I feel it, I experience it. This just like summarizes everything that I felt. And I love when research does that. It's just
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. So I don't know if they have any interesting figures. It's probably at the. Oh, we got some really interesting figures. We got dimensions, observational units, categories of time use, definition of threshold, construction of the indicator. Okay, so full disclosure, haven't read it fully yet. Definitely, you know, I need some time, but luckily we're gonna be having some time soon. So I'll use some time to be able to review that. And it's definitely a video I want to make because time poverty, like yes,
It's such a thing. And it's such a thing in our field, it's such a thing in education. Like it's just, oh my gosh, like that word, you know, when you tell me I found a word you're going to love, I don't know if you're being facetious or if you're being true, but that is like one of the best terms. I'm going to steal it, I'm going to use it, I'm going to like throw it around everywhere, and that is my new term, and I'm so happy about it because now I know how to describe that other than just simply burnout.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
I mean
love
that's
to talk about gender too. Just love that overlap.
same. I mean, you really got to deconstruct it. I think that one of the cool things it does is it gives language to something that we already know, feel, see, engage with, and suffer from. That's what research can do. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, why do you need to do research to be able to figure that out?" And it's like, there's a big reason why. Doing this research can help with policies and legislation and help us be able to identify and measure and see that, you know what I mean? Clearly, we understand, like, probably conceptually, that women would have more time poverty or be more time impoverished than men. But being able to really lay it all out, especially for the bigots, to be able to be like, facts don't care about your feelings. Well, here are these facts.
Yeah. And as a woman who has been socialized as a woman my entire existence, you know, I definitely take on more of the like house labor, I would say, than my spouse. And that's not anything that's a fault of his. He's willing. It's just I want it done my way, and I
hmm
want it done when I say right. And that's one of those things. But if I'm like, hey, help me with this, like he helps. But part of me wonders, okay, to what extent is that me being a control freak versus me like being socialized in this way and I just do these things and don't think anything of it. You
hmm
know, I do have very gender stereotyped hobbies at times. Like I love to bake. I love to, you know, cook and do all that sort of stuff. And, you know, my spouse is definitely the I can just throw something in the microwave and be happy with that. So, you know, I how deep does that conditioning go? And just to have that, as someone who struggles to find their words a lot, that phenomenon that you describe where it's like sometimes we need these concepts, we need these terms, we need these, you know, these articles because some of us who can't come up with the way to describe these things to have them easily understood by others is what we're missing. And so that makes that connective piece there. It's like you described, you know, we can't argue this without facts. Well, now we have the facts. We can't refute those because we have data.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah, and I think that one of the greatest examples is I was watching this interview with Kimberly Crenshaw, who
Oh,
created intersectionality, and she was one of the great minds that worked in critical race theory. Oh, it was big scary.
look how
One of the
terrible.
ways, yeah, she one of the ways she was talking about intersectionality and how she came up with it was she was trying to describe to the courts how you know, discrimination in hiring and firing happened when it came to black women because courts would say, oh no, they hire women and they hire black people. So you can't say you're being discriminated because you're a black woman. because they hire both of these people. And she's like, how do I get these male judges to understand these compounding effects of discrimination? So she said, well, you drive a car and imagine the being at only having one intersection. It's easier to get through if there's only one intersection, right? But so if you're just a woman, or if you're just black, it might be easier. But when you have two, you're black and a woman, there's going to be more congestion in these intersections and more difficulty, right? And then if you add disabled on that, if you add trans or queer on top of that, the more compounding.
Uneducated.
Exactly. Like she literally said, I had to figure out what this old, probably white man would understand. So it was like, well, they understand cars, so let me say intersections,
That's
and
funny,
that's
actually.
that's how she came up with it. And I was like, oh my
Her
god, like,
language is
yeah,
brilliant.
that's genius.
It is brilliant. That is like pairing to the max, 100%. So like gold
Mm-hmm.
star on that pairing, and like I wish that well, sometimes I don't, but like I've had a lot of what I consider like average white men of ABA coming out of the woodworks to just all of a sudden comment on my stuff. And it's just like, first off, I don't know you. Hi. Um, Nice to meet you, I guess. Second off, like, why are you feeling a way about my stuff? Maybe unpack that. Um, but yeah, like, I don't know clearly how to relate to white men, even though I'm married to a white man. So yeah, well, what's something that makes sense? Cars, beer, like what else do you? Oh my gosh, maybe I need to take a lesson on that. It's like I don't know how to relate to y'all, but I guess we'll get there.
Yeah, I
I don't.
mean, one of the
I don't
things that
hear
I've yeah, one of the things that I've had recently is a lot of white men in my comments, especially in one particular
you.
video.
You have.
They say they were tone policing, saying you're yelling, and then they were tone policing, saying that I couldn't like express my frustration,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And
Because it's
I'm
not. It's uncomfortable to them.
exactly. I'm not being charitable when I explain how they explained it, but then I like break it down like all the problems with what they're saying, and it's like I'm talking about like in this particular instance, I was talking about Texas removing education, basically removing lessons about slavery. And then, watering it down, whitewashing it, and being genuinely upset and frustrated with this. And when I show that frustration, and I'm not just having a monotone presentation of it, these people who are followers or they share it with love. I know that a lot of them, like some of them are just, I don't know you, who are you? But some of them are followers. Some of them I actually know and are trying to like what they do is I think that they're being nice and kind by trying to tell me how they feel like I'm coming off and how they shut down when I am expressing my emotions. And it's just so frustrating. It's like, so if I am cut, do I not bleed? I am not allowed to express a modicum of my frustration to the continuous violence that is put upon black men, black people. I'm supposed to just be express nothing, and they some of them understood. I don't think they fully understand it because they just have this idea that I stepped outside of my box of palatable black man. Um, so they were like, "Oh no, don't do that," and then like
This is
Carissa knows. Yeah,
isn't.
it was funny because Carissa just commented on it today. She's like, "Oh, if you're mad about Jared for this, y'all must think I'm the devil."
Okay. My God.
So yeah.
But what's funny is I'll use the same tone about ableism, and I don't get those comments. And I wonder why. What could be the difference there? Could it be my skin color? Probably. And could it be the fact that I'm like openly admitting to being disabled with a communicative condition? Possibly. They're scared of me. And like, there's no reason to be fearful of me. Yeah, I mean, some people probably have a reason to be fearful of me, but like, most people probably don't. Um, so, white people, in particular, listen up. What I have found can be the most helpful to be a friend or an ally or whatever the case. If you're seeing someone being tone policed on the basis of a racial stereotype or discriminatory practice, say something. Because if the person who's being targeted, the marginalized person, is the one saying that, they're going to continue to be tone policed and they're going to continue to look angry or whatever. You need to be the one to step in there. Also, read a book, learn about this stuff, because it's not that person's job to educate you. You need to educate
Hmm.
yourself. And, I will ask you a question once in a while, but I try not to excessively ask questions, or I'll like make a point. Like I messaged you about Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, and I was just like, whoa, what the am I reading about this guy? But like, I'm not asking for your labor. I'm just basically saying, whoa, that is wild. I can't believe that this all happened. But I'm doing that labor myself. Not saying that I'm like the picture of doing this, but like, stand up
Hmm.
for people. If you see this happening, don't let it continue. Tell people they're wrong. And I try to do that, but I don't catch every comment or anything. And I want other people to be doing that too.
Yeah, and I think that like with you and with some of my friends, I'm really happy to talk about these things. One of the things I didn't talk to you about because I was like, how do I explain this when it comes to specifically Clarence Thomas is so he's a big comic book guy apparently, and there's
Oh,
this comic book
weird.
character. This guy, his name is Icon, right? He's
Okay.
basically like Superman. He came from a different world, is crash landed, but he crash landed during slavery. So he an enslavement. So he looks like an alien, but he took the image of a black baby because the first person he saw was a black woman, a black enslaved woman, right? So he eventually the book comes out in the 90s, so it's set in the 90s. So Clarence Justice Thomas really liked this character because this character was actually ended up being a black Republican in the 90s, right? So one of the this girl ends up like working with him and like shows him the error of his ways when it comes to his views, right? And like he has a lot of learning that he has to do, even though he comes from like a time of enslavement. So whatever. Clarence Justice Thomas reached out to the author or the creator of this guy. What's his name? I can't believe I'm forgetting this man's name. I'm gonna name him because I need to because he passed away a long time ago. But McDuffie, Dwayne McDuffie, right? He reached out to Dwayne McDuffie. He in his like Library of Congress or whatever, he had these comics, and Dwayne McDuffie like commented like, I can't believe he didn't recognize the irony of him liking this super Republican guy and how we wrote him as somebody who had to learn about all of these problematic things. And Clarence Thomas was, you know, doing like basically saw himself in it but didn't realize like didn't connect the dots. It's like when bigots don't realize, like when MAGA doesn't realize they're the stormtroopers, and the stormtroopers are an allegory for fascists. I'm not gonna say the NAZIs, you know what I mean, but you
Yeah.
know it's all an allegory, and they don't realize they don't connect the dots because they don't have that critical thinking. Because it takes a lack of critical thinking to be an ist, an ableist, a sexist, a racist. You have to abandon all critical thought to generalize an entire group and discriminate against them. But Clarence Justice Thomas, I just wanted to bring up, is like it's interesting that he had that blind spot.
Yeah. Um, I learned a lot. I'm actually going to put the book that I just read called The Grift, about Black Republicans, in our resources. It was really good. It was not a quick, easy to digest read. It took me basically the whole time I had the book borrowed, because it's heavy stuff. But I highly recommend it. And it. I don't know. It was just a journey. It was a wild ride, and it explained a lot to me now, because one of the things that I've never understood is how somebody could openly oppose a party that's trying to benefit the people as a whole. And so it really kind of dove into that and explained, well, here are some of these different contingencies that can happen. It didn't use like behavior analytic terms, but it talked a lot about like the reinforcement was great. I was able to gain an office in the White House and blah blah blah. And so grifters basically is what the term was used. And so I'll make sure to link that as well. But yeah, that doesn't surprise me about Clarence Thomas knowing now what I know about him.
Hmm. Who
Now
wrote
he's
it?
like on my top list along with like Thomas Jefferson and like
Hmm.
Lincoln's up there now.
Yep.
No longer like Lincoln.
Nope.
Yeah.
Who wrote that book? The Grifter, was it?
Clay Kane. And I
Clay
guess
Kane.
he is a I can't remember, he's like a podcaster or he hosts like a
Mm.
radio show or something like that. But it was written very casually, but very, very knowledgeable. This was the first I'd heard of him, and I was just like, okay, maybe I'll look into more of your stuff because this was
Hmm.
really interesting. But
Hmm.
deep dives into basically the start of American history and how black republicanism became a thing.
Yep. That's wild. I think
It is.
that
It really is.
it's always cool to read some stuff. Like I love reading like not behavior analysis stuff, but then using behavior analysis to conceptualize what they're talking about. I think it's such a great thing because we don't do that enough in our science, or we're not at least encouraged to do it enough. So no, I think that's awesome. Yeah, we're time impoverished,
We
especially as
have a lot of time
professors.
poverty.
Hmm.
Oh,
Um,
that's true.
so pivoting slightly, if it's okay with you.
Of course. Let's pivot.
Um, so I'm not going to say the name of this conference, but I applied to or submitted a paper, basically to talk at a conference to present, and I want to share a little bit about my experience. I got this email. I just put it into here. It said, "Good afternoon. Thank you to submitting your paper for the blank
Well,
conference. The submission review team would be pleased to review your proposal if you would consider revising the presentation title to better reflect a professional conference format. If you're willing to make this change, please reply to this email with your revised title, blah, blah, blah." So they haven't even said yes. They say, change your title or else we're not going to even review. That's frustrating. Let's look at what my title was. Get in, loser. We're improving ABA and precision teaching using DOS while building a new behavior bank. So basically, I have to lose my voice to fit into a box of professionalism they ascribe to that is more palatable. And this frustrates me to no end because as a millennial, that's a Mean Girls reference.
Hmm.
Whatever old person,
Beautifully done too.
I'm sorry, the ageism is wild. Whatever person is,
Beautiful, by the way. I love this title.
yeah, I mean, I feel like it's fun. It's, it's cool. It's hip. One of the things that I learned early on in my PhD program was when you're presenting on something, it was an incredibly great workshop. And my advisor, we only had 7 people that came to the workshop, and they commented in their feedback that our title wasn't sexy enough. And I have taken that with me everywhere to know that in when I'm doing making titles, don't make it some boring whatever. Actually spice it up, make it interesting. So get in, loser. There's a reason behind that. There's a whole idea behind it because of the way that academia and higher learning is, and the way that these conferences are, and the way that they conceptualize professionalism. It's being discarded and rejected on the basis of the title. They're judging a book by its cover.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing that you were talking about with what's happening in your comment section. So you're being tone policed and you're being chastised for having a personality because it doesn't fit inside the professionalism norm. Well, you're a professional. You're supposed to present yourself in a certain way. Well, that's sexist. That's ableist. That is, all the isms, racist, and
Mm-hmm.
all of it. And that's what professionalism is. We've talked about professionalism and how both you and I are just like, screw that. We're going to do our thing. As long as we're
Mm-hmm.
not hurting anybody, there's nothing that's wrong here. In fact, I would challenge that if you don't challenge professionalism, you're in the wrong here because
Mm-hmm.
we are a culture that evolves and we should be evolving. So I'd say forward that email to me. I'll respond to it. I'll respond to it for you.
Well,
No,
as
actually,
somebody,
I'm going to revive it, and here's why.
yeah, yeah. Well, as somebody who's early in their career, who at this particular conference has built a good name for myself, but still early in my career, I just acquiesced. Now, we'll see how this looks moving forward, but I just sent them a more generic title that is pretty much the same without the get and loser part, so that they could accept my presentation so I can be able to get in the door. And that's a metaphor for
Yeah,
what
I
we
hate
have
that.
to do to get in the door. It doesn't matter, yeah, it doesn't matter how good your research is, how beneficial it could be, how incredibly life changing it could be. If you don't fit into the box, you can't get in the door.
Part of what we do really badly in our field is we don't self promote very well. And unfortunately, that means that the ones who do self promote, the ones who follow and jump through those hoops, get promoted. So we see
Mm-hmm.
these flawed and I would argue backwards demographics being represented because we know that that's like less than, or like, isn't it like 10% of the field that are white men? Instead, we see them amplified way more. That's a problem. And because we're not willing to jump through those old white man hoops, we're being punished for it. Like, I've had to do this too, but at the same time, it's like, I hate that that is being done. That's why we blast those things in Urava. So if you're willing to share that with us and want us to send it out, we can share that out. And we can use it as a learning opportunity. Like, hey, here's what this is, and here's why it's problematic without
Mm-hmm.
actually like labeling the person. So think about that if you want. I'll be
Oh
glad to
yeah, I
send
will. I
that.
feel like they're usually incredible, this conference.
Right.
But the
I
thing
know
is,
who you're talking about.
that's
Yeah.
that's usually
But
how this
who's
works.
leading them?
Exactly. How it works is these people in my comments tone policing me. They're usually, as so long as I fit inside that box, accepting. But as soon as I step outside of that box, they're not. And the
We're
thing is,
uncomfortable.
I want I want everybody to listen up real quick. Anybody watching, please. You. If you watch my content, I appreciate it. But you do not know me. You do not know a fucking thing about me. You do not know me at all. You can have commented, you could have messaged me. I could have replied. You do not know me. There is this pseudo relationship we have. I don't know you, right? I know Robin. I don't know the person commenting, making enemies in our comment section. So I really need y'all to grasp this, that you don't know me, I don't know you, and your comments and feedback are always to a real person who sees all of it pretty much and is affected by it. And if you're telling me and your feedback is critiquing the way that I feel or how I should respond according to you, who probably isn't a part of my demographics,
Right.
you don't know me.
Boom. Mic drop. Very well said. You are definitely more viewed than our content with Nirava. And that can be good and bad. That gives you more exposure, so you're able to communicate to the people that probably need to hear it the most.
Mm-hmm.
But that also evokes these uncomfortable feelings. Like, why do I feel this way when Jared speaks in a tone that I'm not used to hearing him speak in? That's so
Mm-hmm.
bizarre. That is something that you need to sit in. Like, you don't have to always freaking comment on anything. You can scroll past things. Not that I'm saying dismiss it, but you can scroll past, reflect, then come back later if you decide you do want to comment. Because I'm telling you, practicing that pause has been life changing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely life changing. And when you come back with that clarity and that self reflection piece, you can truly express what it is you're wanting to convey. You may not have the words right away. You may have good intentions, and that's the thing. This is an example of what a lot of people call white women's tears. Like, oh, I feel bad about this. Okay, you can feel bad about that, but simultaneously not take away from what is actually happening in that circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see, once again, somebody tone policing anybody of color, anybody of a disability, anybody of any marginalized status, say something because it's
Mm-hmm.
not okay. As long as there's no like name calling or anything like that, then no harm was done here. People have been saying these things calmly and in your approved tone that makes you comfortable, and that didn't work. So sometimes we get a little upset about these things. It's valid.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Ta-Nehisi Coates said it one of the best ways. Was silence not an option?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, think about that. And Tupac, actually, I have to say this. He has this great example of poverty and hunger. And he's like, at first, when you're impoverished and you're hungry, you're knocking on the door and you're like, "Hi, I'm hungry. Please let me in." And then after a week goes by, "Hey, I'm really hungry. Please let me in." Another week, "Hey, I'm hungry. Let me in." After I'm picking the lock. I'm walking through the door. You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, it gets to the intensity of whatever emotion or condition has increased so much, and the deprivations and have gone to such a level where the behavior is going to be intense. That's behavior science.
Right.
And if you are unable to see that and empathize or understand, then you really need to unpack why the people with those demographics you can't understand.
Let's spell this out for our neurotypical white men who might be just present for this. When anybody who isn't you, start to sound upset, it's an extinction burst. It's because we're not receiving reinforcement for the behavior that we're trying to do in what we consider an appropriate manner, so we have to escalate it. So you
Exactly.
understand now, because you probably do, because we're speaking your language, and I'm saying this calmly, as calmly as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I hate walking the walk. I hate talking the talk, but like you said, sometimes we have to do those things, and it sucks because each time we do that, we chip away at parts of our identity that make us really cool people and make us all different. And I hate that. I hate knowing that like you modified the title of that presentation because I loved it. And
Yeah.
that was something that I would be like, man, I want to go to that talk because that person gets it. That
Mm-hmm.
person's fun. That person is not boring and stuffy, and I'm not going to fall asleep during their lecture. Like, I don't understand why we would why do the same thing over and over again? That's literally the definition of insanity. Doing the
Yeah.
same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. It's not going to happen. Stop
Exactly. And
trying to
it's
make it happen.
stop trying to make fetch happen. Yeah, it's a lot of times it's a bunch of old white men telling me the way that I should do it when they were never able to do it during their time. And it's just like, so you want me to do more of the same? And I think that this is really good. I love this. Sass is simply a more palatable form of rage, and I can be very sassy and petty.
Me too.
And I think that this is just like kind of getting at what I'm trying to say because I when I do sometimes do videos, certain ones I'm a little bit more sassy, and then people get upset. I actually brought this up to my parents, and they were just like baffled as to why people were upset with me. It's like it's like you're like Jared, you're in the right. You're okay to feel these things. It's crazy that these people feel upset with me. It's like this is my controversy is people are mad that I was upset.
How dare you make people think about themselves? Like, come on. How dare you make them self reflect? Good grief. That's the thing. I would love to know, out of all of the people that do comment on those different pieces of content, what type of work that they're doing to kind of understand these positions in society. Chances are they're probably not doing much because they're probably coming from a behavior analytics side with time poverty. I love
Yeah.
that we keep like going back to this.
Yeah.
But, you know, I try to make the time. Like, I even got like this journal about being anti-racist because I want to make sure that I'm showing up for all of my students, regardless of who they are and their identity. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just doing like a page a day,
Yeah.
you know, making space for that active participation is so important. It doesn't matter what demographic we're talking about here, but like, I work with a lot of students who do not look like me, and I want to make sure that I'm showing up for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. I feel you. Yeah, it's just really interesting. You know, sometimes it's funny because I feel like in this podcast, I'm like, what are we going to talk about this week? But we always we got it.
There's always something that pisses us both off that we can
Yeah.
talk about for a while. And but I love this conversation because we started with just like a few ideas, but then like we're tying it back to behavior analytic terms
Mm-hmm.
and concepts and everything, like, you know, talking about extinction bursts and um, the ideas of professionalism. Well, you know, these concepts have been reinforced for so long that
Mm-hmm.
at this point it's like, well, you know, maybe we're hitting a point of ratio strain. We need to reflect on these things. And so I don't know, I just always really appreciate tying this back because I think that it's speaking that language and once again conceptualizing these ideas and everything, but putting them into words is so different. So like the intersectionality piece that you were talking about, what is a way that we can get through to these people? Cars. Ah, great.
Yeah.
Extinction. Let me talk
Mm-hmm.
about this. So I really love that we have like these themes that usually occur every time we have a conversation. It's really good.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Same. And then slightly pivoting again to I recently went to a conference where I did present, and there was none of that policing of tone or anything of the like. Actually, there were talks about policing of tone. This was the BABA
directions of your
conference.
response.
Yeah.
Like,
of This was the BABA conference, Black Association of Behavior Analysis. It was incredible. It was in Jackson, Mississippi, which is the first time I've been there, which was interesting. But it was a beautiful time, and it was the first time in a long time that I felt proud to be a behavior analyst. And the last time was at Black Men in Applied Behavior Analysis. But this was because the way that people presented was that they were critiquing the field. They were talking about we critique it because we love it. They talked about how a lot of the times people in applied behavior analysis focus on the individual and we don't scope out enough into the systems that are the environments that these individuals are operating. We talked about, yep, they talked about colorism. I took notes. They talked about what is behavior analysis for. No science is neutral. A science reflects its values. Have we been I can't even read my own handwriting. There's this one great thought experiment. It's like imagine neighborhood A and imagine neighborhood B. Neighborhood A has a Whole Foods, has a health clinic, a free health clinic, has free access to a gym, all these things, and then neighborhood B doesn't have any of those, right? What do you think the behaviors of the individuals in the different neighborhoods are going to be? The ones who have access to all these things and the ones who don't. You know what I mean? This really affects how people behave in our lived experience. So we have to really think about those things. And I was just so impressed by all of these individuals really doing work that I felt like is critical in engaging in deeper analysis than what I feel a lot of the ABAIs of the world or the CalABAs of the world do, where we're really diving deeper into these things and asking some questions and being critical of the science without anybody clutching their curls or being like, oh, how dare you? Like, we are all understanding, like, people get it, like, we get why the people are upset with ABA. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean? And I was so overjoyed with all of that and with everybody's the way that they showed up, the way that they presented, and it made me proud to be a part of them in behavior analysis. And I just wanted to share that because I don't feel proud to be a behavior analyst almost ever,
Right.
and this is one of the few times that I was.
That's you sold it to me. So next time they have a conference, did they announce where it is next year?
They may have. I don't think I was able to go to that talk where they announced, next year and everything. But I'll definitely be going. I'll definitely have some more research I want to share, and I definitely want to hear people just like what they're doing, what they're talking about. It's so inspirational. So when I get that information, I'll relay it.
Absolutely. I hate conferences in part because it's just surface level. And I don't want to hear about discrete trial training. I don't want to hear about using AAC. Like, I've been there, I know, I think I've heard it. Uh, I want to hear about these actual systems approaches. I want to hear about, like, new things that we have talked the talk of, but we have failed to walk the walk on. And it sounds like that is definitely more of a place where I would feel comfortable versus going to ABAI and knowing that the organization itself is perpetuating good and amplifying good perspectives and voices that need to be heard. It just sells it even more for me. They're not promoting like the Judge Rottenberg Center like ABAI
Hmm.
does, and so it's a good organization with good people, good presenters, good topics, all of the things. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really see a loss other than having to socialize, which is not something I like to do, but I would consider doing it for all of the above.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things is like the cultural values that came out of it, in the sense that all the presenters that I saw, they all had some component of audience engagement. Because for us in our culture, for Black people, African Americans, we understand each other. Everybody has knowledge and information we can share and bring to the conversation. And we don't see the people presenting as the only ones who are knowledgeable on even the topic that they're presenting on. So there's always some aspect of individual, like the presenters asking people to talk, to share, to give their lived experience and help us situate it in the science, and it makes for such a richer presentation. There was one on using Wicked, the movie, and a behavior analytic view of wickedness and goodness. And it was so interesting. And everybody was talking about different ways that, like, she was breaking it down. Okay, so what do you see from this picture? What do you think from, like, has everybody seen it? So can we talk about how people are engaging with this? So it was really incredible the way that every time there were people presenting, they had the audience have some type of participation where the audience, it wasn't about just did you get this answer right or wrong. It wasn't that at all. It was please share so you can help us understand as knowledge makers as well.
Conferences be like that. I don't understand what makes it so difficult. Like, I don't want to go to these stuffy, boring, wah wah places. I avoid all these conferences, but that actually sounds like a good space that's fun and gosh, like the after parties are probably really great too. Not that I'm like an
Yeah.
after party type of person, but like, you've been to the ABAI one and everyone's doing like this boring line dance together, and it's like, what is that? What even is that?
Yeah.
Like, come
Yeah.
on. But I know
Yeah.
that those parties were probably way more fun.
But yeah, they were doing karaoke. They had game night. They had all this trivia, a lot of fun stuff.
That is
I didn't
fun.
make it because I'm old and I go to bed.
I'm
And
older than you.
well, I'm also not.
Like years.
Yeah, well, I'm also not drinking or smoking this year, so I think that's also a part of it. So I'm just like, let me just go back and play my Switch, or
Gosh, I love that you took your Switch. That's so
yeah,
nerd coded.
it
It's
goes
great.
it goes everywhere with me. And Star Fox just came out.
I
You better
heard
believe.
I heard it's so worth it. Like, if you don't have a Switch already, I heard it's worth getting one for specifically Star Fox. I would argue that Animal Crossing is also available. You should get it for that as well
Yeah,
as the Animal Crossing edition.
yeah. Well, that one updated, and then also Pocopia, A lot of people are
Yeah.
saying that it scratched that Animal Crossing itch with the Pokemon like flavor and like all the additions and stuff. So my fiance is probably playing it right now.
That's so funny.
So
Oh, well, and also, isn't she like starting to play the card game? Didn't you
she's
mention that?
yeah,
Or
she's collecting. She's collecting the cards.
something?
So she's got like actually I can come over here.
I love this.
So she's got multiple folders.
Oh, it's so
Um
cool.
so she's got like ones like this one is her food one. So it's
Okay.
got a whole bunch of Pokemon um related to like I think it's just she likes to pick the cute ones.
Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
she'll
And they're
organize it
colorful.
like
I
that.
love this.
Yep. And then I don't know what the other ones
This
are.
language.
Yeah, so she'll like get ones with like these Pokemon are all doing jobs. These are all cute ones. These are all Pokemon with food. So like she's got different themes and stuff. So she's enjoying it. I have expressly told her I will enjoy it with you, but I am not going to participate because I already collected Pokemon cards, and if I start again, it's going to be an addiction again. So I'll just watch from outside the club.
Friend who was like, I can't play World of Warcraft because I lose everything in my life if I start
Yeah,
playing.
I
I'm
lost a
like, I'm
whole
not here. So
winter break.
you get in it, you hyper
Yeah,
fixate. That
yeah,
means you're
I'm
definitely on
like
code.
literally every time I start a almost every time I start a anime, if I really like the anime, I'll read the manga. I will stay up every single night until I finish the manga and read all of the manga, catch all the way up. Like I have a problem and I know that about myself, so I create barriers.
You know, this is kind of related. So I'm generally the same way. Now, like about 6 months to a year ago, I started getting involved in it's an old soap opera called Dark Shadows. Have you heard of this? Okay. So Dark Shadows is basically like a soap opera, but it's like Twilight Zone skinned, and so it's like vampires. The main character is a vampire, and like comes to find his family, but he's like actually looking for his dead bride and blah blah blah. It's like from the 1960s. It's full of white people, so like it's obviously very 1960s. But like I got so into this, and I was like, I've got to finish all of it. There are over like 1,000 episodes of this show. It was like a super long running. I know, and it's weird that you haven't heard of it,
Is
but
it
it's
English?
really, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it was on
No, I mean
ABC.
British.
Oh no, no, not British. I'm sorry. So
Okay.
it was American. It was on ABC for years.
Okay.
Like my mom watched it apparently, and
Hmm.
she's just like, "Oh, have you gone through Dark Shadows?" I'm like, "No, I've still got like 600 episodes to go, Mom. Thanks though. Thanks for the reminder." But yeah, I'm like maybe 400 episodes into the show, and I'm like not even close to the end, and now I'm like. My brain, because like I'll occasionally deviate away because I'm like, man, I don't know how much more like werewolf, vampire, 60s lore I can take. And then, I'm like, but I have to finish. I have to
Mm-hmm.
finish it. So, like, it's such a dilemma. So, you got to find something with like 1,000 episodes. And then, like, that'll help you kind of kick that a little bit, I think. Because I've had to force myself to, stop watching. But if you're into weird, kitschy, supernatural things like I am, and you can kind of overlook. I will say it was progressive for its day. Like there was even a scene that it reminded me of like the disability struggle. I'll try to think of what that was, but I saw the way that they approached it and handled it, and they handled it with dignity and grace, and I was just like, wow, this was like 1967 and at a time when like institutions were happening and blah blah blah. But basically, um, from what I remember, there was somebody who was clearly having like a mental health episode, and they basically were like, well, we can't restrain him, that's not okay. We have to let him make his own decisions and blah blah blah. I was just like, all right, I hear you. That's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. So like for its time, minus the lack of diversity, it was pretty
Yeah.
interesting. So, Dark Shadows, they made a 2012, I think, movie. It starred like Johnny Depp, I think. I
Mm.
probably have all that wrong, but they did a revamp and did the movie, and it was Tim Burton, which I have arguments about in
Who
general.
doesn't?
Yeah. Love the creepiness, don't love some of the things that he does, but.
So as a weird director, and I feel like in that space, there's like you got to be weird in some way. Problematic, you don't necessarily have to be, but it is what it is. But that sounds really interesting. Yeah, and one of the things I'm avoiding is this anime One Piece. You
Uh-huh.
probably have heard of it. Yeah, it's got over 1,000 episodes. I want to watch it, but I'm not going to dedicate my time and self to that. But in February, they're coming out with the remake. So they're gonna remake the whole thing, and they're gonna have better pacing and updated visuals and animation. So that's when I'll start. When it's like, okay, we're remaking. It hasn't even finished, and they're remaking it already, which is
I was getting ready to say it's not an old series, is it? I didn't think it was.
I think the first episode came out in '99.
I don't consider that old though, because I was.
Well, I mean, for yeah, I guess it's not as long as The Simpsons.
Well, now South Park too, because we're on like what season? I don't know.
Yeah,
Watching some of the first episodes of South Park, it's really cringy too. It's
yeah.
like they've always
Well,
been cringy, and that's part of the appeal. But like, I don't know, it just goes really extensively cringy.
well, even like The Office, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you watch that and you're just like, oh, this is not okay. Some of the best shows, you'd be like, I don't remember that. Like even
No.
I don't know if you're a Star Wars fan. I watched Star
No.
Wars with my fiance because she hadn't seen it, so it was like 4 or 5 years ago. We watched episode Star Wars Episode One.
You went in chronological order.
No. We went the first three, the first trilogy that came out back in the
Okay.
'60s or whatever. So we did four, five, six, and then one, two,
Six.
three.
One, two, three.
Yeah. So, but by the time we got to one, uh, we saw the aliens. The aliens are incredibly racist. They have Fu Manchu mustaches, and their accents are like super Asian accents. That like when you hear them, you're just like,
Well,
I don't remember this at all. And like
right.
they have like a new version where they like edited the audio so it's not like super racist accents and stuff.
Okay, that's a
Um
start.
yeah, but I mean I could not believe it. I was like, "Oh my god, I did not remember this."
Yeah, that's what really sucks is when you like look back on a piece of cinema or television or whatever. Now, it's important to like remind yourself that different time, different space, like it doesn't make the behavior acceptable, but it's also like a product of the culture at the time, so it's a good reminder of like what not to do. One of my favorite movies of all time is Clueless, and I even have a tattoo of Cher's little pen and everything. And like, I love that movie, but they dropped the R word casually a few times. We were saying that in high school. We were saying that in middle school, and like, that does not make it right.
Nope.
So, like, if y'all think that we're always on our high horses when we talk about these things, we make mistakes too. So, like,
Yeah.
but I know now watching it when I watch the movie, I'm like, oh, hate that part. But now I like know where it is, so I can be like la 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 and
Yeah.
not hear it. So,
I have a similar frustration with a lot of rap music that I listen to that's like older and a lot of the homophobia.
oh,
Um
right.
and this one TikToker, he was like, you know, these men don't have homophobia; they have hypochondria or homochondria because they think that they're gay or whatever, or they're gonna get the gay. And I was like, yes, that is so true.
I
That's
love that he makes
exactly,
this argument. It's like, gay
and
men
and,
don't
and
want you.
exactly. You don't
They
wash your butt.
understand.
That's that. First off, you don't wash. Second of all, you look ugly and musty. Like women don't want you. You think men do?
No, because their standards are sometimes much higher. Trust me.
Yeah,
Got like some
and
friends. They don't
I
want you.
think, yeah, I think a lot of it is also men thinking that other men are going to engage in the sexist patriarchal behavior upon them. So like when men do yeah with
Right.
catcalling, sexual harassment, like touching of other men,
Be
like
treated like
that's
a woman.
yeah,
Oh,
that's what they're afraid of.
okay. Treating us the way you do. Okay, got it.
Hmm.
Got it.
So they're
With
worried
us,
that,
not
oh,
for you.
this gay man is he's gonna hit on me, or he's going to try to harass me in the same way they would a woman.
Please note these are usually the guys finding the glory holes in the national park bathrooms. Just saying.
Yep.
or Republican senators or other politicians.
Who always crash grinder.
Mhm. The Josh Duggars
Oh,
of the world as well, the ones who
exactly.
are
The
definitely on Ashley Madison and doing all that stuff.
Lindsey Grahams of the world.
Lindsey Grahams, oh my god, piece of crap. Like, maybe we should just like list pieces of crap to see who responds or reacts first. Like, like a stare down staring contest, but it's like who can't
Who's
deal,
gonna blink?
who's gonna give in
Exactly.
first and like groan and yell because they hate that person so much. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, there's definitely a lot that we can look back on and be like, ooh, that's cringy. Dark Shadows is not one of them, generally, for me. So, another
Good.
plug for that great, old, random soap opera with weirdness all over it.
Good. I mean, it's always interesting when it's like, especially like those '90s TV shows that did like the episode where the kid brought a gun, or you were the kid. There's a gay kid. Like they
After
always do
school
those.
special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the after school special episodes that do not really exist anymore, which I think is bad. Maybe they didn't always handle it perfectly, but at least they were talking about it, which I really enjoy.
Right. So, have you ever seen Strangers with Candy? The show. Have you heard of it? Okay, so Strangers with Candy is one of the shows from the 90s that I think did not get enough credit. It stars, do you know who Amy Sedaris is? She's usually like a random bit player. She plays like a lot of, basically she would be me if I was like famous and I got
Hmm.
to like do what I wanted to do. Like she'll just randomly go out in public wearing a fat suit and like black out some of her teeth and just like see how people respond to her. She's like wild and I love her. And she has
Hmm.
access to all sorts of money to like do all these random things to herself. So it's a show that mocks the after school special. It's basically South Park, but with the theme of an after school special. It's amazing. And it's Stephen Colbert. You know who Stephen Colbert is.
Yes.
It's his breakout role, and he's amazing in it. He's the teacher of this girl who, like, is going back to high school. I think it's on Paramount Plus, too, so you can
Hmm.
stream the episodes. There's some real cringe in a lot of the episodes, but it's so funny. And Stephen Colbert is brilliant in it. And the principal of the school is named Onyx Blackman, and he is a black man. And like it's shit like that. It's
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
hilarious. And his pictures in every single scene of the school,
Hmm.
just randomly hanging up. Like it's just so ridiculous. But I feel like if you loved making fun of after school specials, that show should be on your to watch list. Anybody.
Okay. Strangers
It's
with Candy. I'm gonna have to
so
check
good.
that out.
So good. Anyway,
Okay. Well,
that's my media contribution for the day.
there we go. I feel like we didn't have to force ending on positive notes this time. We
No, this
just
was great.
did it. This was fun. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, reply to a comment.
Make your friend or enemy.
Exactly. And thank you for watching. The learner is always right.